Now the client moves in, the house is clean, the house is done, and there's no punch list. At this point, anything that they discover while they've moved in is now in your 1-year warranty. Welcome to the Curious Builder Podcast. I'm Mark Williams, your host, and welcome to Thursday's Q&A. So today's first question is all about project managers and construction supervisors. How many projects can they handle at any given time so that they're still peak performance, but also managing your overhead? This is a pretty loaded question. I've seen it handled a number of different ways with the different size companies, and I'm not sure anyone can perfectly answer this question because, as we all know, construction is constantly ebbing and flowing. And so I think this is going to be a very, specific to, this is going to be very specific to each company and how they like to operate. I'll use my own company, for instance, and we are a small team of 4 or 5 people. And in the past, I have had a project manager, a senior project manager. I've had a site supervisor and a project coordinator, so a team of 3. So collectively, those 3 people will handle the estimating, the bids, they'll handle the contracts, they'll handle pre-con. So there's a lot of it depends on what they're all handling. And so, the way we kind of handle it is they would probably be able to handle, for sure they have to handle 3 as a group. Anything less than that, and I think the overhead burn is probably just too high. And I think they probably couldn't handle more than 5. Because I think once you get beyond 5, the amount of details, the amount of ordering just becomes overwhelming. So for that particular group of 3, the way we used to run it in years past, I'd say between 3 to 5 was about the right number. The problem is, as we all know, if you're in building, is you don't always get to pick when your jobs start. And I think that's the most difficult challenge because, we're always trying to get more design work so that we can fill the funnel. And then we obviously want to get going. And inevitably, a client will delay something or there'll be a permit delay. And it always seems to happen. Projects start at the same time. And that, I would say, starting at the same time and ending at the same time is your most difficult challenge regarding how to manage your workflow and your people so that they don't burn out. So what we really try to do to combat that is we really insist that all selections are made before we start. And we actually use it as a selling tool that your home or your remodel is going to go faster if you allow us to do the work on the front end. And I think a lot of this has to do with education, both from me as in charge of sales and us as the builders to our clients, that really this is our process. And if you don't give them another choice, if they want to work with you, this is your process. It's also just going to be smoother. I don't know why, for 20 years I've been building, and I would say for about 18 of them, I always thought more is better and faster is better, but that's not true. You would, inevitably you would meet a client, you would try to sign them up into a design retainer, and you'd try to just go as quickly as you could. And a lot of times it was the clients, they wanted to go. And I think when they don't know any better, of course they're good. You give them an inch, they'll take a mile. Or if you, even worse, just being someone who's a very optimistic and sales forward individual, is I would sell them like, yeah, I'd build up the excitement. Let's go. This is exciting. Let's go. So in some ways I was my own worst enemy. It's like cutting a hole in your ship and then driving it faster and wondering why your ship is sinking. You've got too many holes in it. And so I think really slowing the process down, coming up with a pretty mapped out process on the front end, especially pre-construction, so that you can allow for proper time for the actual build, I think is going to help regulate both your project managers and your site supervisors, as well as making sure you're not burning people out. I also think checking in with your team. What I often do now when I'm taking on a new job, especially a remodel, or if somebody says, hey, do you have the capacity to take on another job? I always say, yes, I have capacity to take on design work. And the way that I handle it from there is, it's first come, first serve. We try not to have 2 jobs start at the same time. I explain to my client this. And so I can't tell you when your job is going to start because we haven't even finished designing it or pricing it. I'll give them a time frame. Hey, we'll start probably within this 3 to 6 month window. Does that sound good to you? And so you're really sort of already prepping the client for not a delay, but just a realistic expectation of time. And you're also giving yourself some buffer. I think also when you build your schedule, it's really important to create some buffers in your schedule. I think we as an industry are notorious for overpromising and under-delivering. And you can't get crazy about it. I mean, you can't add 6 months of extra fluff to a schedule and then just tell your client like, oh, surprise, we're done 4 months early. You have to be more reasonable than that. But one thing that's been a huge change for us is everyone at the end of the project is so stressed out because the last 30 days of a build it's a lot of hands on deck. And of course, the client sees the end coming. They're excited. They're likely moving out of a rental home. They're arranging for movers and for furnitures. And once that date is sort of set, like they are ready to go. And that date is pretty much hard to change. So one thing that I got some advice from another builder on this, and it was extremely valuable, is we tell them that can move in their house about 30 to 45 days before we know the exact date. We'll kind of give them an estimated time, and it's on the schedule. We use Builder Trends so they can see the schedule. But we actually add a 30-day buffer at the end, and it says right on there, it's a 30-day move-in period. And where I'm going with this is that we all have run into problems with callbacks and with your punch list items. And what I used to do, and I don't know why this was a good idea, is you would go as fast as you could to the very end, and then you would do, let's say, a walkthrough on a Monday, and closing was going to be on a Friday. So you'd walk through on Monday, you'd identify all the things that the client didn't like, or maybe stuff was on back order, and you have 4 days to fix it before you move in and clean the house and move in the furniture and all these other things. And like, that's just never going to happen, especially with the caliber of homes that we build. But honestly, just in any home that you build, that's not a great idea. And so what we do now is we have a 30-day window from that date. So we will, once we do the walkthrough, which we have on our schedule, that we will not do that meeting with the client until we have a substantial completion or a certificate of occupancy from the city, so a final inspection. And we have 30 days from that final inspection where the city deems it's habitable to live in. We have 30 days to complete that punch list. And what this does is now we can still meet on that Monday. We put everything on a list and we have them sign it. And if it's not on that list, then it goes on the 1-year warranty list. It's not a punch list item. And not only on that list do we'll itemize every single item. So let's just say you have 30 items and we'll assign a value to it. And the reason we do this is, let's say you have $200,000 owed on your last draw. Well, I don't want the client holding us hostage for $200,000 for 20 grand of work. So I'll say like painting, 5 grand, wood floor, nicks and dings, 1,500, maybe a window's missing, $500, 1,000, or whatever it is. You itemize all these things out. And then that money, if you end up closing or for whatever reason, it's held in escrow and it's released as it comes across. That way a homeowner cannot hold a contractor hostage for the work that they've done. And I've seen this happen time and time again. So now you have these 30 days, you also have it itemized, and you're doing all the work in those 30 days. Well, guess what? You're going to get it all done, unless there's something on back order or something like that. Now the client moves in, the house is clean, the house is done, and there's no punch list. At this point, anything that they discover while they've moved in is now in your 1-year warranty. You're not trying to schedule a way back into a home that they've just moved into, that their movers probably nicked some walls, their kids have probably done something as well. And now you're sort of in this grace period of like, well, you're here anyway. Can you just fix it? You don't have to get into any of that. Plus, it's probably been a year, 2 years during the build. It just allows them to move into their home, kind of get settled. It usually takes, 30 to 60 days for a couple to kind of feel acclimated into their new home. And obviously you'll show up and maybe walk them through how to use things, or we often will have our HVAC company, our AV company schedule individual appointments with the clients so that they can come out and understand their own system. Because I always find like, yes, I can tell them how to do it, but really the expert in that category should be the one leading them through, the walkthrough of their own home. The other benefit of this is if there's an issue and when there's an issue, they will call those people directly. And so I know this is a pretty big answer to the question, but I think it does sort of encompass all of it. I think the other part about managing project managers and site managers, depending on the size of your company, is how far are you looking down the road? Are you forecasting work? And, I mentioned this a little bit earlier. is we will ask our clients, or I'm sorry, I'll ask my trade partners and my project managers and site managers, hey, how are you feeling? On a scale from 1 to 10, how maxed out are you? Usually it's pretty much all hands on deck for those last 30 days. And so if they're really in the middle of a big push, I'm going to make sure that I'm not starting another house while another house is ending within my ability, if it's the same project manager. Now, if you have multiple teams, obviously you have the capability of doing that. But if you're running a small set of project managers and site managers, you definitely want to make sure you're not starting a job where you're closing one. That just is a recipe for disappointment and overwork. Hey everyone, I wanted to talk to you today about CBUSA, the industry's leading group purchasing organization. They make it possible for home builders like me, and probably many of you, to get better pricing and grow your bottom line. I'll be joining the new local chapter here in Minneapolis, and I look forward to working with the other top builders in the area to drive down material costs. CBUSA has chapters all over the US, and they're continuing to expand every year. You can learn more about the benefits and apply for membership by going to cbusa.us/learn. That's cbusa.us/learn. Additionally, if you want to hear my interview with Ryan Lipchek from CBUSA, that's episode number 26. So hopefully that was helpful. The second question that was asked is, where do I see the future of residential construction going with the lack of people entering the trades? I've heard a number of different stats about this. Something like for every 7 HVAC individuals that are leaving, that have their master license and are leaving, there's only 1 to take their place. Or for every 5 plumbers that are leaving, only 1 is taking their place. I don't doubt that's happening. I mean, as I look around at some of the crews, you definitely see a lot of silver hair, and a lot of that knowledge is leaving the industry. However, as I look around, I feel like this has been going on for quite a while. I think a couple things are happening. One is, I think podcasts like myself and other people, we are pounding the drum and we are talking about it a lot. And you see it in the media, you see it in the newspaper, you see it on social media. And I think the young generation sees a great opportunity here. Here in Minnesota alone, I think we're 100,000 homes short of what our demographic needs. Well, man, if you're looking at starting a business, you'd be pretty hard pressed at finding another career, with outside of the construction world, that you could own your business as quick as you could within the construction world. And so there's so much opportunity for entrepreneurship, and there's so much opportunity for mentorship. If I can imagine, if you're a 65-year-old plumber and this is your life's work, and maybe your kids don't want to be involved, maybe you have no one to sell it to, like they are yearning, they love their craft, it's been good to them. Like they would be happy to take somebody under their wing, give them a career, give them a job, and sort of if they're the right fit, they would do a transition of power. So I think there's a great opportunity for those that are in their teens and in their early 20s, honestly, even in your 30s, to find a career that you like, or a passion that you have, and see where it can go. I think approach people that own their businesses and ask them, what is your transition plan? I think builders, it might be a little bit different. Most builders will have a hard time selling their business. I'll use myself as an example. Mark Williams Custom Homes, I'm a small company. I think without me, I don't think my company exists. But you take a plumbing company that works for 20 or 30 builders. They have a warranty division. They have a bunch of, maybe it's a mix between professional clients and residential clients. You have a book of business. That plumbing business is very sellable. Electricians, painters, this list goes kind of on and on, where it's more repeatable work. There's huge opportunity there. I think if I could go back in my career, I think I probably personally would buy a plumbing company, or maybe an electric company, or an HVAC company, probably HVAC, frankly. And I just think that there's so much opportunity there. I think the margins are really good, and there's so much opportunity. I mean, as a builder, I look around, there's 3 or 4 HVAC companies I work with. I've worked with one company for 40 years between my company and my dad's, and they recently sold. Now that new company doesn't have a lot of interest in working with new construction. They just want to do warranty work. Well, now there's an opportunity. Now I'm looking at, 2 or 3 other HVAC companies and exploring new opportunities. And those individuals are not the youngest people either. One of them is. And so that makes me encouraged. I think also, and this is only my own self-reflection to this question, not speaking to the industry at large, but I'm also really encouraged. We have a young framing crew. I mean, these guys have got to be 23, 24. They're very young, and they are so eager to learn, and their customer service is phenomenal. And I think that next generation is also really into building science. I mean, they're watching YouTube clips, they're listening to podcasts. I think that older generation, they didn't grow up with it. And so they're not either interested in it, they don't have enough time for it, or they're like, you know what, I've got a couple years left in my career. I'm not going to teach an old dog new tricks. Not that you can't, but I just think that there's a lot of energy with the younger people. So I would say if you're a builder out there, if you're a remodeler and you're looking at hiring a company, look at the age of their employees. Don't just meet the owner. Ask them about their staff. Ask them about their, I don't even know if it's legal, but ask them about the ages of their people, or maybe just ask to meet them. I mean, you can just visually look at somebody and understand if they're a little bit younger. And I find it really encouraging when I see a lot of younger guys. My electrician, super young team. My cabinet shop, same age as I am, although I've got silver hair here, so it's I may not be. I'm more middle aged now at this point. And so I think there's a lot of energy. I think there's going to be a lot of advancements in technology too. I mean, I can't say that I'm an expert at all in artificial intelligence or AI, but it's definitely coming to help us a lot. And so I know we use AI with Adaptive. They're one of our main sponsors for the podcast, amazing company. They handle all their draws and all of our bill pay, our ACH payments. They have taken hours and hours, not only a day, but I mean, months of our time per year in savings. So if that helps my office staff, that frees them up to do more bids. Maybe it frees them up to help me out in the field, things like that. So I don't think we're going to see AI obviously pounding nails in or painting people's homes, but if it can help you with your bill pay, so let's say you're a painting company, can you spend 2 hours less a week working on invoicing? If you are a framer and you're spending all day in the field and you've got to go and pay all your people, but you can spend a couple hours less a week doing that because you've got some AI assistance, amazing. Obviously, when it comes to marketing, AI is incredible for blog writing, for just writing in general. Most of AI tends to be either task orientated or seems to have some sort of language model. So if you do a lot of writing, a lot of emails, I think we're going to see huge advancements there that ultimately are going to help spell the gap on some of the labor shortages. I think we're going to see probably more SIP panels and some more prefab home construction. We do pretty high-end custom homes, and I know you can do it, but some of the framing has to be maybe a little bit simpler. Depends a lot on your roof gables and some of the roof details. But I'm sure a lot of the wall assemblies, especially if you're thinking about it ahead of time with the architect and assembling the team, a lot of this is going to be able to be built in a factory. And I think if you're building a factory, you now are going to have straighter walls. You're going to have a controlled environment. There's a lot of pros. And then guess what? You can do all of this, before you even come on site. So you could have, let's say you had a 10,000 square foot house or 5,000 square foot house or whatever. If all the walls are built, rather than spending several weeks or a couple months of putting up all the walls and floors, you could do it in a couple of days with a crane. And I think we're going to see some advancements in speed, which again, the people are just going to have to get more efficient. And this is one of the ways that I think it's going to happen. So I also think that with rising tuitions, I feel like every day when I open the paper, I see that, our local universities are, raising their tuitions by 5%, 8%. And, at some point, people are going to stop paying 40, 50, 60, 80, $100,000 a year in, college education. And what is it that they're really doing? And I think you have advocates of construction. It's a great life. You get to build something that's really tangible. So I think, again, not only just the podcast, but I think with YouTube and Instagram, people showing what they're doing, the construction world has an amazing story to tell. And I think as video is, especially short form video, is so powerful, I think it's going to really capture the attention of the younger generation because it's very visual. I mean, for years, I've seen my framers where they'll take a video of the work that they've done that day, and then they'll post it or text it around. Well, the world of sharing is so much bigger than it was 10 years ago that now those messages, get liked by 10,000, 20,000, however big it gets. It's just broadcasting what you've actually done. And there's nothing wrong with being an engineer or, being an accountant or working on a computer all day. I mean, frankly, as a builder, I do spend a lot of time on my computer. But my point is like, it is very satisfying at the end of the day to walk off a job site and look at that home and be like, we put all the windows in today. We put a roof on a house today. It is really satisfying to see something that is physically a manifestation of your work. And when I ask people what they find most validating about their job, that is right up there with one of the tops. I think also interacting with people, being outside, working with your hands. There's just so much opportunity, and if you're into marketing, there's tons of opportunity for marketing. So honestly, construction kind of has everything going for it. So I feel like it's more about awareness and education. And I think that people will come. I think we're going to see a great surge of younger people coming into the trades. I think we're in a low right now. I don't know how long that lull will last. Is it 5 years? Is it 10 years? But I think as you have a dearth of talent and a lot of people exit, prices are going to increase, which is not great. But you're going to see that people are going to move into that because it can make a lot of money. If you have nobody, it's going to be a supply and demand model. And not only will the homes go up, but so will wages, so will demand. And so people that are really interested in starting a business or starting a career, I don't know if I could pick another career where you would have better upside, especially if you want to own your own business. Thanks for tuning in to the Curious Builder podcast. We'll see you next week. We're happy to announce that on August 1st, Mark Williams Custom Homes and the Joy Collaborative are holding a charitable event at one of our past builds on Medicine Lake. If you're interested in raising money to help out children with disabilities, there's over 66,000 kids in need in Minnesota alone. We'd love for you to attend. Details can be found on our website, thecuriousbuilderpodcast.com, or any of our social channels. We hope to see you there. Additionally, if you want to hear more about the Joy Collaborative, please listen to episode 34 on the Curious Builder podcast. We're excited to announce that we've opened up another Curious Collective. For the last year, we've had the Curious Builder Collective. We now have the Curious Builder Collective for designers. The first ones will be happening in September. All the details are going to be on our website. We have 30 spots available. Half of them have already filled. We additionally have 8 spots left in the Builder Collective. If you're interested in getting together in small groups of 9 with local Minneapolis-based builders and designers in separate groups and talking about your business, talking about your brands, asking those questions that you wish you could ask another business owner, then this is the place for you. Details can be found at thecuriousbuilderpodcast.com. Thanks for listening to the Curious Builder podcast. If you like what you listen to, please give us a 5-star rating and write us a review. It really means a lot. It's a great way for us to just understand what you like about the podcast and what we can keep doing. So like and review, and please share with your friends and family. Find out more at curiousbuilderpodcast.com.